Pause for a moment and ask yourself this. Did God really send me to earth just to find a job? No, my friend. You are not a mistake waiting for employment. You are a solution waiting for revelation. The world may offer you a paycheck, but God offers you a purpose. Your gift was not designed to survive the system. It was designed to change it. So today, I'm not talking to job seekers. I'm talking to world changers who've forgotten who they are. It's time to stop searching for work and start walking in destiny. You were not born to find work. You were born to fulfill purpose. That single statement separates existing from living. Most people spend their entire lives looking for something to do, while God is waiting for them to discover who they are. You see, a job is what you do for a living, but purpose is what you were born to do. A job gives you a salary, but purpose gives you fulfillment. One can be taken away. The other can never die. We've been conditioned to believe that success is measured by employment, that security comes from a paycheck, that destiny is found on a resume. But let me ask you, what happens when the job ends? What happens when the company closes? What happens when the world shifts and your position no longer exists? Does your value end there? Absolutely not. Because your value was never in your position, it was in your purpose. There's a difference between making a living and making an impact. Making a living keeps food on the table. Making an impact changes generations. God didn't breathe His Spirit into you so you could survive from month to month. He placed His breath in you so you could manifest what He designed from eternity. That means your assignment is older than your career. Your calling existed before your company, and your purpose cannot be fired, replaced, or downsized. But here's the problem. Many people confuse their work with their worth. They spend years building someone else's dream while neglecting the vision God placed within them. They celebrate titles but ignore calling. They chase promotions but lose passion. They collect certificates but abandon conviction. That's why so many feel empty even after success. Because success without purpose is just motion without meaning. Let me tell you something. Your job is a channel, not your source. The moment you mistake the channel for the source, frustration begins. You start depending on people who were never meant to carry your destiny. You start worshiping a paycheck that was only supposed to sustain you for a season. Hear this carefully. Your source is divine. Your job may sustain your hands, but your gift sustains your life. And that gift, that unique seed within you, is crying out to be discovered. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need applause. It just needs recognition. When you find your gift, you find your flow. You find your confidence. You find your peace. That's why Scripture says, your gift will make room for you. Not your resume, not your position, your gift. So stop asking, who will hire me? And start asking, what did God hide in me? Stop searching for employment and start seeking deployment. The moment heaven sends you into your assignment, because when you walk in purpose, you no longer chase opportunities. Opportunities begin to chase you. And as we move into the next point, remember this. You are not created to live by a paycheck, but to live by a vision. And that vision is waiting for you to believe it. The danger of living by a paycheck instead of a vision is that it traps you in survival when you were created for significance. Most people are not truly living. They are only existing. They wake up, go to work, come home, repeat the cycle, and call that life. But deep inside, there's a whisper, a restlessness, a question that won't go away. Is this really all I was born to do? A paycheck can feed your body, but it can never feed your purpose. You can have a stable income and still feel completely empty, because the truth is, money was never designed to define your mission. The paycheck is temporary, but your vision is eternal. The paycheck satisfies your needs. The vision fulfills your destiny. One makes you comfortable, the other makes you dangerous. Now, don't misunderstand. There's nothing wrong with having a job. Work is honorable. But when the job becomes your master, when it dictates your value, when it silences your dream, that's when you lose yourself. That's when you trade your destiny for a direct deposit. That's when the enemy of purpose is not poverty, but comfort. Because comfort convinces you that survival is enough. How many people are sitting in positions that are paying them well, yet killing them slowly? Smiling on the outside, but suffocating on the inside. They have security, but no satisfaction. They have income, but no impact. They're earning money, but losing meaning. Why? Because they've confused provision with purpose. Let me tell you something powerful. When you live by vision, you'll never be broke, because vision attracts provision. Vision pulls resources, ideas, and people toward it. You don't have to chase it. It chases you. That's why God gives vision before He gives resources. Because He wants you to depend on purpose, not on a paycheck. Some of you are praying for a raise when God is calling you to a revelation. You're asking for a promotion when heaven is calling you into purpose. And here's the danger. If you stay too long in a system designed to use you, you'll forget the kingdom that designed you to lead. The paycheck may pay your bills, but it will never unlock your potential. You see, vision gives meaning to money. Without vision, money becomes a master instead of a servant. It controls you instead of serving your calling. But when you live by vision, you understand the paycheck is just a tool, not the treasure. The true treasure is within you, waiting to be released. So the question is not, how much am I being paid? The real question is, what am I being prepared for? Because destiny doesn't pay weekly, it pays eternally. And when you discover that, you'll stop living for Friday and start living for forever. And that's where the shift begins, when your work no longer defines you, but your calling does. Because the next step is not about employment, it's about discovering the power of a calling that no company can contain. When you work for a calling, not a company, everything changes. Your attitude changes, your energy changes, your results change. Because now you're not just working for income, you're working for impact. You're not clocking in for survival, you're showing up for assignment. There's a difference between being hired and being sent. One is chosen by man, the other is commissioned by heaven. When you work for a company, you give them your time. But when you work for a calling, you give God your life. A company can give you a job description, but your calling gives you a life direction. One tells you what to do, the other reveals why you exist. And the truth is, people who live by calling cannot be confined by titles, salaries, or office walls. Their motivation comes from something eternal, something that no paycheck could ever buy. The tragedy today is that too many people are trapped in jobs that have stolen their joy because they forgot their calling. They started with passion, but ended up with paychecks. They once dreamed of making a difference, but now they just dream of making it to the weekend. You can see it in their eyes. They're busy, but they're not alive. They're working hard, but not working true. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you woke up excited, not because of your work, but because of your why? When was the last time your heart burned with the conviction that what you're doing matters beyond this life? That's what happens when you're driven by calling. You find strength even when you're tired. You find creativity even when resources are limited. You find purpose even when the world doesn't understand. A calling cannot be measured by pay grades, and it cannot be limited by people's opinions. When you're called, your reward comes from obedience, not applause. Your promotion comes from faithfulness, not favoritism. And your validation doesn't come from men. It comes from the one who sent you. That's why you can't quit, even when it's hard. Because calling won't let you rest until it's fulfilled. When you work for a company, your future depends on performance reviews. But when you work for a calling, your future depends on purpose revealed. Companies can hire and fire, but calling is permanent. No one can cancel what heaven has assigned. You may lose a position, but you can never lose purpose. Because purpose doesn't come with paperwork, it comes with revelation. And listen, when you start working for a calling, you stop competing and start completing. You stop comparing yourself with others because you understand no one can do what you were designed to do. You were crafted for a specific assignment, a divine task that fits only you. So if you've been working for the world, it's time to shift. Stop working for money and start working through purpose. Because the moment you embrace that truth, you'll discover something powerful. Your gift is not meant to be employed, it's meant to be deployed. Your gift is greater than any job title. Let that sink in for a moment. Titles are temporary, gifts are eternal. A title may open a door, but your gift keeps you in the room. A title can impress people, but your gift impacts generations. You see, a title is what the world gives you, but a gift is what God placed within you before the world even knew your name. The problem is, most people spend their lives chasing titles, manager, director, CEO, as if those words could define their worth. But have you ever noticed? Titles change, companies merge, positions disappear, yet the gift remains. That means the real power doesn't lie in what they call you, but in what you carry. Because no one can take away what heaven put inside you. A title can be printed on a business card, but your gift is written in your DNA. It's who you are when the stage is empty and the crowd is gone. It's that thing that flows out of you naturally, the thing you do effortlessly that others struggle to do. And here's the truth. The world may ignore your title, but it cannot deny your gift. The gift announces itself. It doesn't need marketing. It creates its own demand. That's why Scripture says, your gift will make room for you. Not your education, not your connections, not your position, your gift. Because your gift is God's investment in you, and every investment expects a return. That's why you can't afford to bury it in fear or hide it behind a title. You were not designed to fit in. You were created to stand out. But here's the danger. When you attach your identity to a title, you give people the power to define you. And when they define you, they can confine you. You start living for approval instead of purpose. You start performing for recognition instead of impact. And slowly, your gift begins to die under the weight of expectations that were never yours to carry. Listen, your title can end when a contract ends, but your gift will open doors long after people forget your name. That's why some people lose their position but still rise again, because their gift cannot be fired. It's built into their being. It's heaven's signature on their soul. And the beautiful thing is this: your gift was not given for employment. It was given for assignment. You were not sent to earth to collect titles. You were sent to solve problems. The title identifies where you work. The gift reveals why you're here. The title earns you a salary, but the gift brings you influence, favor, and legacy. So don't let your position limit your potential. Don't let a label define your destiny. Because the world may call you one thing today and something else tomorrow, but heaven still calls you by your purpose. And as we move to the next point, remember this: your job may be temporary, but your assignment is eternal. Stop chasing employment and start discovering assignment. Because employment was never meant to be your identity. It was meant to be your training ground. You were never created just to find a job. You were created to fulfill a purpose. There's a difference between being hired by men and being called by God. One ends when the contract expires, the other lives beyond time. You see, the world teaches us to chase opportunities, to run after openings, to apply and wait for someone to choose us. But heaven's system works differently. God doesn't call you to chase, He calls you to become. Because when you become what you were born to be, doors open on their own. Purpose doesn't chase positions, purpose creates them. The tragedy of our generation is that too many gifted people are stuck in jobs that have nothing to do with who they truly are. They're working hard, yet feeling empty. They're getting promoted, yet losing peace. Why? Because they've mistaken activity for destiny. They're busy, but not effective. They're employed, but not deployed. You were never meant to fit into someone else's system when you were designed to build your own. Employment can give you stability for a season, but assignment gives you significance for a lifetime. When you operate in your assignment, you stop asking, "What do I do next?" and start declaring, "This is what I was born to do." You no longer wait for permission. You begin to walk in purpose. Think about it. The job may give you money, but your assignment gives you meaning. The job may satisfy your needs, but the assignment satisfies your spirit. And until you discover that assignment, you'll always feel like something's missing, even when everything seems fine. Because deep inside, your soul knows there's more than this. Assignments come from revelation, not from RA summaries. They don't come through job offers. They come through divine encounters. That's why some of the most impactful people in history weren't employed by institutions. They were deployed by vision. They didn't wait for the world to approve their calling. They stepped into it. And when you find your assignment, the world begins to adjust itself around you. Stop saying, "I need a job," and start asking, "What problem was I sent to solve?" Because the truth is, every calling is the answer to a problem. Your assignment is the solution someone has been praying for. The moment you discover it, provision follows. People are drawn to purpose. Resources are attracted to vision. You won't have to chase them. They'll find you because you're functioning in alignment with heaven. And here's the beautiful part. When you live by assignment, you no longer fear losing a job. Because jobs come and go, but assignments cannot expire. You become unstoppable, unshakable, unmovable, because you know why you exist. And that leads us to something even deeper. You were not only called to discover your assignment, you were created to dominate in it. You were created to dominate, not to be employed. That's not arrogance, that's assignment. From the very beginning, God never said, "Let us make man to work for another man." He said, "Let them have dominion." Dominion means rulership, authority, leadership. It means taking charge, not taking orders. You were designed to manage the earth, not merely survive in it. But here's the tragedy. Most people have exchanged dominion for dependency. They have traded authority for approval. They wake up every morning waiting for someone to tell them what to do, when to do it, and how much they're worth for doing it. That's not dominion. That's bondage wrapped in comfort. And the system is designed to keep you there, working hard, but never free. The truth is, employment can become a modern form of slavery if you forget who you are. When you live only for a paycheck, you give another person control over your destiny. You limit your potential to their vision. But you were never supposed to live under another man's purpose. You were sent to release your own. You were created to bring heaven's ideas into earth's reality. Now don't misunderstand me. There's nothing wrong with working for someone. Every vision begins with service. But the danger comes when service becomes slavery. When you stop growing, when you stop dreaming, when you stop hearing God's voice because you're too busy answering the bosses. That's when dominion begins to die. Because dominion is not about rebellion, it's about responsibility. It's about knowing that your purpose is bigger than your position. When you walk in dominion, you no longer fear failure because you understand failure is part of formation. You no longer fear losing a job because you know you cannot lose what's inside of you. You no longer fear people's opinions because dominion gives you clarity. It gives you confidence. It gives you courage. You begin to realize that your value is not determined by where you work, but by what you were created to do. You were never meant to be trapped in a system that limits your creativity, your innovation, your brilliance. That's why frustration exists, not to destroy you, but to wake you up. Frustration is heaven's alarm clock reminding you, you were made for more than this. Every time you feel that restlessness inside, it's a sign that dominion is calling you. And here's the secret. Dominion doesn't begin with control over others. It begins with control over yourself. When you master your mind, your emotions, your habits, and your time, then you can master your environment. That's when heaven trusts you with influence. That's when doors open not because of your RA summe, but because of your responsibility. So yes, you can work for a season, but never forget you were born to reign. Because the next level of your destiny is not about survival, it's about stepping into the power of divine rulership, the kind of influence that transforms everything it touches. The hidden trap of job security and the freedom of purpose. Those two are worlds apart. Job security sounds safe, but it can quietly suffocate your destiny. Purpose sounds risky, but it unlocks your power. One keeps you comfortable, the other keeps you alive. And the truth is, most people will choose comfort over calling, safety over significance. Because it feels easier to stay where it's predictable than to step where it's powerful. But let me ask you, what is the price of safety when it costs you your soul? What is the value of security when it steals your vision? Many people are so afraid of losing their job that they've already lost their joy. They cling to a system that guarantees a paycheck but denies them purpose. They pray for stability while their destiny is crying for movement. That's the hidden trap, the illusion of security. Job security makes promises that it cannot keep because no system on earth can guarantee tomorrow. No employer can guarantee your future. And yet, people anchor their entire lives on what could end in an instant. They build their identity around something that can be taken away. That's why when the job is gone, they feel like their life is over because their identity was built on their employment instead of their assignment. Purpose, on the other hand, cannot be fired, it cannot be downsized, it cannot be laid off. Purpose gives you stability in an unstable world. Purpose gives you peace even when the paycheck stops. Because when you know who you are and why you're here, you realize your source is not the system. Your source is divine. The system may change, but your supply will never run dry. Job security teaches you to hold on. Purpose teaches you to step out. Job security keeps you repeating what's been done. Purpose pushes you to do what's never been seen. Job security builds employees. Purpose builds leaders. And leaders are not afraid of risk. They're afraid of regret. Because regret whispers louder than failure ever could. So ask yourself, are you holding on to something that God is trying to move you beyond? Are you staying where you feel secure while heaven is calling you into something greater? Sometimes the walls of comfort become the boundaries of your destiny. You pray for freedom, but fear the door that leads to it. There's nothing wrong with a job, but there's everything wrong with being trapped by it. The greatest tragedy is not losing your position. It's never discovering your purpose. Because once you do, you'll understand that true security isn't found in a system. It's found in surrender. And that's where the shift begins. When you stop protecting what's familiar and start pursuing what's eternal. Because the next dimension of your life isn't about comfort. It's about stepping into the divine economy of purpose over provision. God's plan is not for you to work for bread, but to release destiny. Let that sit in your spirit for a moment. You were never designed to live day to day just trying to make ends meet. You were created to make impact. The Creator didn't form you in His image so you could spend your life worrying about bills, deadlines, and promotions. No, He placed eternity inside you, not so you could survive, but so you could create. When you live only to put food on the table, you reduce divine purpose to human labor. You start chasing bread when heaven designed you to produce vision. Remember this, God never cursed work, He cursed toil. Work was part of the original blessing, but toil came after disobedience. Work is creative, productive, fulfilling. Toil is exhausting, draining, and endless. One fulfills destiny, the other feeds survival. And that's where so many people are stuck. Not because they're lazy, but because they've misunderstood the purpose of work. They think life is about earning a living when it's really about fulfilling a calling. They pray for more money when God is offering them more meaning. They chase the provision and forget the provider. But when you understand that heaven is your source, everything shifts. You stop begging for bread and start releasing blueprints. There is a difference between working for bread and releasing destiny. Bread feeds you for a day, but destiny feeds nations. Bread satisfies hunger, destiny changes history. Bread perishes, destiny multiplies. God didn't place you on earth to compete for resources. He placed you here to create them. You are not a consumer of the system. You are a contributor to the kingdom. That's why the enemy keeps you busy with survival. Because if he can distract you with needs, you'll never activate your potential. Hear this, purpose was designed to feed you. Destiny was designed to sustain you. When you walk in your assignment, provision follows naturally. You'll never have to chase opportunities when you're operating in obedience. The birds don't wake up worrying about their next meal, and yet they eat every day. How much more will your Father supply those who live according to His purpose? So maybe the real prayer isn't, God, give me bread. Maybe it's, God, reveal my purpose. Because the moment you step into destiny, bread will find you. You'll begin to experience the kind of fulfillment that money can't buy, the kind of peace that careers can't produce. You'll realize you were not created to live paycheck to paycheck, but promise to promise. And when you understand that, life takes on a new meaning. You stop surviving and start reigning. You stop chasing crumbs and start commanding harvests. Because the next level of your journey is not about laboring for survival. It's about stepping into the overflow of heaven's design. When your gift becomes your source, not your salary, you step into a different dimension of living. Because now, you're no longer depending on the system. The system starts depending on you. You stop waiting for provision, and you start producing it. You begin to understand that what God placed inside you was never meant to be hidden within the boundaries of employment. It was meant to become the fountain of your future. Your gift is your currency in the kingdom. It's your divine economy. When you operate in your gift, you tap into a flow that cannot be measured by pay scales or performance reviews. That's why the enemy fights your confidence. Because the moment you realize your gift is enough, you become unstoppable. You stop chasing opportunities and start creating them. You stop asking for permission and start walking in authority. See, a salary is what man gives you, but your gift is what God gives you. And I promise you, God's giving always outweighs man's approval. A salary limits your income to someone else's budget, but your gift, it has no ceiling. It grows as you grow. It expands as you obey. It multiplies as you serve. You don't work for it, you work through it. Too many people are enslaved to salaries because they don't trust their gifts. They think their job is their source. They say, if I lose this job, I'll lose everything. But no, if you lose your job, you've only lost a channel, not your source. The river may dry up, but the well inside you never runs dry. Because when you operate in your gift, you're plugged into the source that never sleeps, never fails, and never runs out. When your gift becomes your source, you begin to live by design, not by demand. You stop reacting to bills and start responding to vision. You stop living from month to month and start building from purpose to purpose. That's when your gift starts speaking for you. It introduces you before people even know your name. It opens doors that no rare somme could ever open, because the gift carries grace, and grace always makes room. And here's the beauty. When your gift is your source, work becomes worship. You no longer separate what you do from who you are. Every act becomes an expression of divine creativity. You serve people, but you're working for heaven. You produce results, but you're fueled by revelation. You're not trying to survive. You're serving destiny. So don't bury your gift under fear or convenience. Don't silence it because it doesn't fit the system. The gift inside you is your source of influence, impact, and increase. It's not waiting for promotion. It's waiting for activation. Because once you release that gift, you'll discover something powerful. You were never designed to chase provision. You were designed to carry it. And that leads us to the next truth. The moment you step into that realization, your entire identity shifts from worker to ambassador. The season has come from employee to kingdom ambassador. This is not just a promotion. It's a transformation. Because God never designed you to simply represent a company. He designed you to represent heaven. You were not created to be a worker in the world's system, but a messenger of divine purpose in the earth. And when you understand that, everything about the way you see yourself begins to change. An ambassador does not work for survival. An ambassador operates from assignment. An ambassador doesn't worry about provision because their government supplies everything they need to fulfill their mission. That means you are not sent to earn a living, you are sent to deliver a message. You are not here to fit into the system. You are here to influence it, shift it, and realign it with the will of God. You see, employees wait for instructions, ambassadors carry them. Employees depend on salaries, ambassadors depend on resources from the king. Employees work for approval, ambassadors move with authority. When you operate as a kingdom representative, your environment no longer defines you, you define it. You bring light into dark places, order into chaos, and vision into confusion. Because the moment you know who you represent, fear loses its grip on you. You were not born to hide behind a job description. You were born to release divine direction. You were not made to chase opportunity. You were created to embody purpose. That's why you can't stay in the mindset of an employee. It limits your identity to performance. But as an ambassador, your worth comes from your assignment, and that assignment is eternal. It doesn't end when the job ends. It doesn't expire when people walk away. It's sealed in heaven. And maybe that's why life has felt uncomfortable lately, because God is calling you higher. He's breaking the limits of employment to reveal the expansion of purpose. He's shaking the system not to destroy you, but to deploy you. You've been faithful in serving another man's vision. Now he's ready to trust you with your own. This is your season to move from representing the company to representing the kingdom. You are not a victim of the economy. You are an ambassador of eternity. You are not a worker of the world. You are a carrier of heaven's agenda. And when heaven sends you, the earth must respond, because ambassadors don't beg, they declare. They don't chase, they command. They don't fit in, they stand out. So hear this and let it settle deep within you. You were not born to survive in a job. You were born to influence nations. You were not created to wait for promotion. You were designed to walk in divine elevation. You were not placed here to represent man's system. You were sent to reflect heaven's kingdom. You carry authority. You carry assignment. You carry destiny. The world is not waiting for another employee. It's waiting for a representative of heaven. And that representative is you.